everyone, Pratima here, and I have a very exciting phone with me today, the Mate 70 Pro Plus, Huawei's latest flagship phone for 2025. I got this phone when I visited China last week, and the craze of Huawei over there is just next level. So much so that this phone is not available in stock right now. You just can't buy it in stores or online because of the crazy demand. After its announcement, the Mate 70 series had more than 6 million reservations in China, and it may exceed to 10 million units of sale. Luckily, I was able to get one thanks to my friend who lives in China. So let's put this phone to the test. But before that, of course, we have to unbox. So here it is, unboxing a Huawei phone after a really long time. Okay, we have the Mate 70 Pro Plus right here. We have all the basic stuff, some paperwork, a 100-watt charger, and a compatible Type-C to Type-C cable. So one thing we all know is that a few years ago, Huawei was cut off from the global supply chain, which means they could not buy components from any international brand, be it Samsung for the display, Qualcomm or MediaTek for the processors, or Sony for its cameras. So they had to rely only on Chinese companies for all the parts they needed to build a smartphone, which seemed really impossible. But coming in 2025, after all these years, the Mate 70 is finally a 100% made in China product. Apart from that, there are a total of 5 big things that I find very interesting about the Mate 70 Pro Plus. First, it has to be the build quality. Design-wise, it looks like a pretty ordinary phone with such big camera module, curved OLED display, and these aluminum frames, but this might arguably be the most durable phone right now in 2025. Unlike the Corning Gorilla Glass we see on most flagship Android phones, Huawei uses their own second-generation Kunlun glass, which apparently has survived torture tests like getting run over by a car, dropping from 2 meters height where the phone literally broke the tile into pieces, and it even has better scratch resistance than the iPhone 16. It's also the industry's first to use high-gloss basalt coating, which is a super hard AR material made of solidified magma. Huawei says it has several minerals that increase the strength and stiffness of ordinary glass by up to 40%. The display of the Mate 70 Pro Plus is equally good. It's a 6.9 inches 120Hz LTPO panel with super accurate colors, high PWM dimming, and it can get super bright as well. But what's interesting is that we get a 3D face recognition system here instead of the in-display fingerprint sensor we normally see on other Android flagship phones. And this 3D face recognition works crazy fast. Plus, there's also the good old capacitive fingerprint sensor here on the power button. Now, the biggest restriction Huawei has had to make a proper flagship phone is the chipset, since they cannot use MediaTek or Snapdragon processor, and neither they can use the more advanced manufacturing processes from the likes of TSMC or even Samsung. Hence, they have been relying on local Chinese chipset manufacturers like SMIC, which still uses a very old 7nm process because of access restrictions to advanced lithography tools. Huawei and SMIC both are working together for the 5nm process, but still it simply cannot compete with other players in the industry like Apple and Qualcomm yet. So the Kirin 9020 on the Mate 70 Pro Plus is nowhere near today's flagship processors, but still constant efforts Huawei is making is something to look forward to in the future. Now, when it comes to smartphone cameras, Huawei was a big name before all the ban happened. If I remember correctly, it was Huawei who started the trend of smartphone brands collaborating with camera companies. The Huawei P9 came with Leica optimization back in 2016. Cut to 2025, the Mate 70 Pro Plus's cameras are still every bit impressive. Besides the 50 megapixel wide, 40 megapixel ultra wide, and 48 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, which I will get to in a bit, you also get something called a color spectrum sensor, whose purpose is to sense the environment and maintain accurate color tone in photos. As a result, the Huawei Mate 70 Pro Plus can produce really color accurate images. The colors are almost the same as you see from your naked eye. Previously, only Google Pixel phones came close to producing accurate color reproduction, but Huawei has taken it a step further. You can notice that especially in the portraits that it shoots, the skin tone, the details and sharpness looks so natural. I compared the Mate 70 Pro Plus's camera with my current favorite Vivo X200 Pro, and I am definitely switching sides now. The kind of natural colors, dynamic range, and especially the sharp details that this Huawei phone is able to maintain is just amazing. And the funny thing is, Huawei is not using all the latest fancy Sony or Samsung sensors either. It's pure optimization, which is just mind-blowing. Its ultra-wide-angle camera is also one of the widest, and you will notice the color shift from the primary and the ultra-wide-angle camera is almost non-existent. Besides, the phone also features a Mate-capable 4x periscope lens that produces crisp zoom shots. It is also capable of shooting macro photos, and I noticed that it locks focus on the subjects pretty fast, and the background blur and everything just looks great. Even the selfies turn out nice and sharp. Unlike other phones, here we get an ultra-wide-angle lens up front, which means you get a couple of focal lengths for selfies. So you get the option to change the field of view depending on the number of people in the picture or how wide you wish your selfies to be. That wide field of view extends to the videos as well, and the stabilization and everything is good here. You get the option to shoot up to 4K 60 FPS from the rear and the front camera. You can switch between the lenses as well, and you can see the output is really stable with good colors and details. I wouldn't say the videos are as smooth as from the iPhones, but they are good nonetheless. So overall, yeah, the Mate 70 Pro Plus's cameras are actually a plus. Actually, after shooting from this camera, I feel like most other Android camera phones are just playing catch up with Huawei, because Huawei seems to be a step forward than most of them. Finally, the fifth interesting aspect of the Mate 70 Pro Plus is its software. So basically, there are two options in terms of the operating system for this thing. I can either have it running on HarmonyOS 4.3 right now, or the beta version of the HarmonyOS Next, aka HarmonyOS 5. I know all this does not sound too special at first, but trust me, this is a massive deal. Because jumping from HarmonyOS 4.3 to HarmonyOS Next isn't just your typical platform upgrade like going from Android 14 to Android 15, for example. So HarmonyOS 4.3 here is still based on Android, and since Android itself is open source, it's completely free to use, and you can install APK files and get most of the Google services working on the Mate 70 Pro Plus here. Whereas HarmonyOS Next is not based on Android at all. It gets rid of all the Android code found on previous versions of HarmonyOS, while Huawei has even replaced the Linux-based kernel with its own HarmonyOS microkernel, making it a proper alternative to Android and iOS that we have been waiting for all these years. And going by Huawei's numbers, HarmonyOS Next boasts some serious performance uplifts as well, including better battery life, less memory usage, and more fluid experience overall. Huawei also says HarmonyOS Next already has 15,000 native apps, with that number expected to grow to 1 lakh within a year. But still, that lack of Android compatibility means you just can't install an APK file here, and practically none of the other non-Google apps we use daily are available on Huawei's fresh new operating system either. But in China, this might not matter a lot, and Huawei has actually built their own OS for the Chinese people, which is just crazy. So yeah, it's actually not strange why Huawei is doing so well in its home Chinese market. And let's imagine for a minute, what if the Huawei ban was to be uplifted and Huawei could use all the latest chips, the latest displays from Samsung, and the latest Sony IMX sensors for cameras? All of us would be talking about the Huawei Mate 70 series and not something like the Vivo X200 Pro. Alright everybody, that was all for my full and very exclusive review of the Huawei Mate 70 Pro Plus. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this device, and if you would like to see a camera comparison of this phone with the Vivo X200 Pro. Saying this, I'm Pratima, and thank you so much for watching.